Alright, it's the big one, Elizabeth. Today, we begin to tackle one of the biggest topics in Star Wars history. What does it mean to balance the Force?
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
What does balance the Force mean? Might be the third most frequently asked question that I get. The second most common question is probably, is Jar Jar Binks a Sith Lord? And the most common question is, when does Rogue One take place? I'm still mad there's no crawl. So, seeing as how only one of those questions is a legitimate one, I thought I'd start a series. Yes, a series. It's gonna take several videos to get into the meat of what it means to balance the Force. It is something that was talked about really only in 3 of 6 movies, but covered in 6 whole films, and even with all that screen time, I don't know that I fully understand it myself. Every fan that's thought about it has their own take and their own headcanon on what happened, but I'm gonna take you through how I've perceived it. Or at least how I've perceived it since Star Wars The Clone Wars. See, in Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, there was the Mortis Trilogy, and the Mortis Trilogy might be the most controversial story arc within the series. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but it's really all about the balancing of the Force. I also want to get into specifically what does balancing the Force mean for the sequel trilogy. I think it has a lot of implications for the characters of Kylo Ren and Rey. Yes, this will eventually tie into my Kylo Ren and Rey series, and if you are unfamiliar with that series, click on the thing to take you there, because it's probably the thing I'm the most proud of on this channel that I've done. But I really couldn't finish that series and get into my thoughts without tackling what I think balancing the Force means and how that got wrapped up in the original trilogy. And also because we've spotted the characters from the Mortis Trilogy in a painting in the Rebels trailer, I think this is going to have a lot of implications on that final season as well. So all the more reason to get into this. It's a burning question, and I think a lot of evidence for the answer is going to have a huge impact in canon material going forward. On the surface, you might think balance is just a way of saying the good guys always win. The good guys were the Jedi, right? And then they all died, and then Vader saved Luke, and we got the Jedi again. Anakin was supposed to kill the Sith, but he killed the Jedi instead, and when he killed the Emperor, he finally achieved his destiny, right? But is that balance? For a long time, I didn't know what balance meant. I thought it could be the superficial answer. I thought it could have something to do with numbers, that everybody had to go back to 0, but then we got the Mortis Trilogy. The Mortis Trilogy really goes into some of Star Wars' roots in Eastern mythology and the ideas of yin and yang, which I have a Wikipedia-level knowledge of, so yeah. There's this idea of the dark and the light side, 2 sides of the same coin. And I think the more you look at it, the more you're gonna realize that balance actually means the 2 working together, as opposed to the 2 being at odds or one or the other being in power. See, I think the idea that the light must always win is a very Jedi-centric idea. Star Wars is a morality tale of good overcoming evil, but the Jedi, and perhaps many of us, have confused good inherently with the light side, and bad inherently with the dark, when in fact the dark and the light are both needed. They are both objective states of being, not truly alignments. Remember, what we've been told about the dark side and the light side in the films comes from highly biased individuals, either Sith or Jedi, people who practice a religion that involves serving only their side of the Force. The most unbiased explanation of the nature of the Force comes to us from the Mortis Trilogy. For those of you who may not have watched the series Star Wars The Clone Wars, the series was so much more than about the battlefields. It delved into the nature of the Force, life in the galaxy, ways than more than just the Jedi and the Sith. One such story arc involved a shared vision of sorts between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Anakin's Padawan learner, Ahsoka Tano. They journeyed to this floating pyramid prism thing that was just chilling in outer space, where they had like a manifested metaphor vision of the Force. It's really good, I promise, honestly. It's better than that sounds. The episodes make it very clear that they are saying that balance in the Force requires both the dark side and the light side of the Force, and that the chosen one would be the person who could finally achieve this balance between the light and the dark, and that person would see order brought back to the galaxy. Now, the concepts in these episodes were radical for Star Wars, but you would be at a loss if you just kind of tossed them to the side because they were in a corny kids show. George Lucas was actually heavily involved with the series. While he didn't directly write or direct the episodes, he was always there working with the showrunner Dave Filoni, kind of giving a guiding light into where the series was going to go. In a lot of ways, the Clone Wars is what the prequel trilogy should have been. Concepts and ideas from the genius mind of George Lucas that other people made. Now, in my perfect world, you would have either already seen these episodes, or you would pause the video here, go watch them, and come back. But for those of you who haven't seen them and are just not going to do that, let me break it down for you, the simpleness of what happened. There is a father figure, the father who is the source of the power, the embodiment of the Force as a whole. He has the son, the embodiment of the dark side, and the daughter, the embodiment of the light side. Both are his children, and he loves both of his children very much. They make it very clear the son represents the selfishness of the dark side, and the daughter represents the selflessness of the light. The Mortis episodes really drive home the point that these are the inherent characteristics of the different sides of the Force. And yet, there's something kind of interesting going on here. See, the son is on the fritz. He's gone a little bit crazy, and he's starting to cause a lot of commotion. The episodes end with the son killing the daughter, the light, before ultimately losing his power himself, which is not unlike what we see in the original 6 films. The dark starts to rise in power. The light, after waiting a long time to get involved, eventually gains a powerful weapon, or an army, that goes against its very nature. That weapon is then used to kill the light. Then the dark reigns supreme until the one who manages to balance the two sides takes away the power of the dark through sacrifice. I believe that the Mortis arc is ultimately a vision of the original saga films. I also believe that these episodes clearly define balance in the Force as needing both the dark and the light. Which is interesting because the son is constantly described as being selfish and as having all these other negative characteristics. So, where does this leave us? The son is the villain of the episodes, yes, but he has fallen from grace. Not by turning to the dark side, but using his inherent darkness for evil. So how could a dark being have fallen? That would imply that darkness, as a concept within the Force, can't be inherently evil. Used for evil, yes, but not inherently evil. So how can selfishness be used for good? Can it be used for good? Or perhaps are these episodes saying that evil is a necessary evil? These are all great questions for the next video. I'm going to break down these episodes in a little bit more detailed manner. All of these have really big implications for things that we're seeing in the sequel trilogy, especially the kind of duality and balance that seems to be established between Kylo Ren and Rey. And, of course, what that could mean for Rebels, considering that it appears, at least from the trailer, that this arc is going to play a fairly sizable role in that series. So make sure you subscribe here, follow us at Port Haven Forums on Twitter, where you can get updates on when new videos are coming out, and visit us at port-haven.com for more places to discuss things, articles that only make it on the site. Not everything we do is on YouTube, and I'd really hate for you to miss something out, because you're only visiting us here. But, of course, I love the community we have going on here in the comment section. I'm always ready to discuss things with you. I really like getting into that. Really excited to delve into this topic more. It's one I've been wanting to get into for a while, but it's just kind of daunting. So with that, I'm going to leave it here. Keep an eye out for the next video. And until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Now cooking can be fun.